The Galactic Council issues an ultimatum. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the powerful Galactic Council held dominion over countless star systems and civilizations. Comprised of the most advanced and influential species, the Council maintained order through a combination of diplomacy, economic control, and, when necessary, military might. For millennia, the Council had guided the course of galactic events, shaping the destinies of entire worlds. Their authority was rarely challenged, and those who dared to defy their rule quickly learned the folly of their actions. Yet in recent years, a new power had emerged on the galactic stage: the Terran Empire. Hailing from the once obscure planet Earth, the Terrans had achieved remarkable technological progress and expansion in a relatively short time. Their ships, powered by advanced fusion drives and equipped with formidable weaponry, now traversed the stars, establishing colonies and forging alliances. The Council watched the Terrans' ascent with growing concern. While the Empire had yet to directly challenge Council authority, their rapid growth and independent streak posed a potential threat to the established order. There were whispers among the Council members that the Terrans could not be allowed to continue unchecked. Thus, the Council convened an emergency session to address the Terran question. In the grand chambers of the Council headquarters, representatives from the most powerful species gathered, their holographic forms towering over the proceedings. "The Terran Empire grows too bold," declared the counselor from the Zorgith Imperium, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Their refusal to fully integrate into the galactic community and their aggressive expansion cannot be tolerated." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled counselors. The Terran Empire had rebuffed past overtures to join the Council as a junior member, preferring to maintain its autonomy and pursue its own interests. "They think themselves equal to the races that have stewarded this galaxy for eons," added the counselor from the Andromeda Consortium. "We must remind them of their place." The debate raged on, with various counselors proposing different approaches to dealing with the Terrans. Some advocated for economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation, while others pushed for a more forceful response. In the end, a consensus emerged: the Terran Empire would be given an ultimatum. The Council drafted the formal demand, laying out the terms under which the Terrans would submit to Council rule. They would surrender control of their colonies, limit their military forces, and accept Council oversight in all matters of interstellar policy. Failure to comply would result in severe consequences, up to and including military action. With the ultimatum approved, the Council dispatched a delegation to deliver the message to the Terran Empire. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how the upstart humans would respond to the Council's show of force. Little did the Council realize that their ultimatum would not cow the Terrans into submission, but instead light the spark that would ignite a conflict unlike any the galaxy had seen before. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the mettle of humanity and shake the very foundations of the galactic order. The Terran Empire's defiant stand. News of the Galactic Council's ultimatum spread like wildfire through the Terran Empire. From the gleaming spires of Earth's capital to the farthest colony worlds, the human populace reacted with a mixture of shock, anger, and grim determination. In the halls of power, the Terran leadership convened to discuss their response. The Emperor herself, a figure of legendary resolve, presided over the emergency session, her presence commanding the room. "We have come too far to bow before the Council's threats," the Emperor declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "The Terran Empire was forged in the fires of adversity, and we will not submit to the whims of those who seek to control us." Murmurs of assent filled the chamber. The Terrans had long prided themselves on their independence and resilience, traits that had served them well in the centuries since they first ventured to the stars. The idea of surrendering their hard-won autonomy was anathema to the very core of human identity. "The Council underestimates us," spoke the Grand Admiral of the Terran fleet, his holographic form flickering with barely contained energy. "They think us weak, a mere upstart race to be brought to heel. They have no idea of the strength that lies within humanity. The Terran military, long the shield and sword of the Empire, had been preparing for this day. Even as the Empire expanded and prospered, the armed forces had never forgotten the lessons of Earth's tumultuous past. They had studied the Council's tactics, analyzed their weaknesses, and developed strategies to counter their overwhelming might. "Our fleets stand ready," the Grand Admiral continued, his voice filled with steely resolve. "Our soldiers are the finest in the galaxy, and our technology is second to none. If the Council wants a fight, we will give them one they will never forget." The Emperor nodded, her eyes blazing with determination. "We will not start this war, but we will finish it. The Council has underestimated the strength and spirit of humanity for the last time." As the Terran leadership mobilized for conflict, glimpses of the Empire's military might began to emerge. Massive warships, their hulls bristling with advanced weaponry, moved into defensive positions around key systems. Legions of power-armored soldiers, each one a formidable warrior in their own right, prepared for the battles to come. In the shipyards and factories of the Empire, a frenzy of activity unfolded. Engineers and artificers worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of human ingenuity to create new weapons and defenses. Rumors swirled of secret projects and devastating technologies that had been held in reserve for just such a moment. Yet even as the Terran Empire girded itself for war, there were those who held out hope for a peaceful resolution. Diplomats and envoys worked tirelessly behind the scenes, seeking to find a way to bridge the gap between the Council and the Empire. But as the days passed and tensions continued to rise, it became increasingly clear that the galaxy was on the brink of a cataclysmic confrontation. The Terran Empire had made its stand, defiant in the face of the Council's ultimatum. Now, as the drums of war began to beat, the fate of humanity and the galaxy itself hung in the balance. The stage was set for a conflict that would test the limits of human courage and determination and decide the course of history for generations to come. The calm before the storm. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, an air of confidence bordering on arrogance permeated the proceedings. The councilors, secure in their position atop the galactic hierarchy, were certain that the Terran Empire would have no choice but to submit to their demands. "The Terrans are a young and foolish species," scoffed the councilor from the Zorgoth Imperium. "They will soon learn the price of defying the will of the Council." Others nodded in agreement, convinced that the humans would quickly buckle under the weight of the Council's military and economic might. After all, countless civilizations had tried to resist the Council's authority over the millennia, and all had ultimately been brought to heel. Yet there were a few dissenting voices among the councilors, those who had studied the Terrans more closely and recognized the danger in underestimating them. "The humans are not like the other races we have encountered," cautioned the councilor from the Andromeda Consortium. "They have a resilience and adaptability that sets them apart. We should not dismiss them so lightly." But these warnings were largely drowned out by the prevailing sentiment of superiority. The Council, blinded by its own hubris, failed to recognize the true nature of the threat they faced. Meanwhile, in the Terran Empire, a quiet sense of urgency and purpose had taken hold. The Emperor and her advisors knew that the Council would not take their defiance lightly, and they were determined to be ready for whatever came next. In secret meetings and secure communications, the Terran leadership laid out their plans. They had long suspected that a confrontation with the Council was inevitable, and they had not been idle in their preparations. The Terran fleet, already formidable, was put on high alert. Battleships and dreadnoughts, their hulls emblazoned with the crest of the Empire, moved into strategic positions throughout human space. Fighter squadrons and assault craft readied themselves for the call to action, their pilots and crews honing their skills in endless drills and simulations. But the Terrans' preparations went beyond mere military might. In hidden research facilities and Black Ops labs, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly on projects that pushed the boundaries of human knowledge and capability. Rumors swirled of devastating new weapons and technologies that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. The Empire also reached out to its allies and trading partners, forging a network of support and cooperation in the face of the Council's aggression. Diplomats worked to secure the backing of other independent systems and civilizations, knowing that unity would be key in the struggle to come. As the galaxy held its breath, a sense of unease began to spread. The Terran Empire's refusal to bend to the Council's will had sent shockwaves through the established order, and many wondered if war was now inevitable. On the border between Terran and Council space, fleets and armies gathered. The Council, still confident in its superiority, marshaled its forces for what they believed would be a quick and decisive victory. The Terrans, grim-faced and determined, prepared to fight for their very survival. The calm before the storm was coming to an end, and the galaxy braced itself for the conflagration that was to come. In the hearts of every Terran, from the mightiest admiral to the humblest citizen, a single thought echoed. They would not go gentle into the night. They would rage against the dying of the light, and show the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit. The Terran Empire strikes back. When the storm finally broke, it did so with a fury that stunned the galaxy. In a coordinated blitzkrieg of precision and power, the Terran fleet launched a series of simultaneous attacks on key Council strongholds and installations. From the heart of Council space to the farthest reaches of their dominion, Terran warships emerged from the void, their weapons blazing with the fire of human defiance. The Council, caught off guard by the speed and ferocity of the assault, scrambled to mount a defense. But the Terrans had planned their offensive well. Their ships, powered by advanced fusion drives and shielded by quantum-entangled force fields, outmaneuvered and outgunned the Council's fleet at every turn. Terran fighters, piloted by men and women of unparalleled skill and bravery, danced through the chaos of battle, picking off enemy craft with surgical precision. On the ground, power-armored Terran soldiers stormed Council fortifications and bases, their advanced weaponry and training making short work of the defenders. The Council's troops, long accustomed to being the dominant force in any conflict, found themselves outmatched and overwhelmed by the human warriors. In the heart of the battle, the Terran flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with the most advanced weapons and technology humanity had ever created, led the charge. From its bridge, the Emperor herself directed the flow of the conflict, her tactical genius and indomitable will inspiring her forces to ever greater feats of courage and determination. Across the galaxy, reports of Terran victories began to pour in. Council strongholds fell one by one, their defenses crumbling under the relentless human onslaught. Key supply lines were cut, leaving Council forces isolated and vulnerable. Planetary bases and shipyards were reduced to rubble, their once mighty fleets left in ruins. The Council, reeling from the unexpected blow, struggled to mount a coherent response. Their fleets, caught off guard and out of position, were picked apart piecemeal by the fast-moving Terran forces. Their commanders, unused to facing an enemy that could match them in technology and tactics, made costly mistakes and strategic blunders. As the tide of battle turned inexorably in favor of the Terrans, a sense of shock and disbelief spread through the ranks of the Council. The unthinkable had happened. The upstart humans, once dismissed as a mere annoyance, had brought the mighty Galactic Council to its knees. But even as the Council's forces fell back in disarray, the Terrans knew that the war was far from over. The Council, with its vast resources and centuries of dominance, would not go down without a fight. The Empire's leadership steeled itself for the long and bloody struggle ahead, knowing that the price of victory would be high. Yet in that moment, as the fires of battle raged across the stars, the Terran Empire stood tall and proud. They had shown the galaxy the true strength of humanity, the indomitable will and unbreakable spirit that had carried them from the cradle of Earth to the very heights of galactic power. The Council had issued its ultimatum, confident in its ability to bring the Terrans to heel, but they had underestimated the depths of human resolve and the lengths to which the Empire would go to defend its freedom and its way of life. Now, as the Terran fleet pressed its advantage and the Council scrambled to regroup, the galaxy held its breath once more. The balance of power had shifted, and the future of countless worlds hung in the balance. But one thing was certain: the Terran Empire would never submit, never surrender. They would fight to the last, and show the galaxy the true meaning of human resilience and courage. The Council retaliates. In the aftermath of the Terran Empire's devastating offensive, the Galactic Council found itself reeling. Its once invincible fleets lay in ruins, its strongholds and bases reduced to smoldering wreckage. But even as the Council struggled to come to terms with the magnitude of its defeat, a grim determination took hold among its leaders. They would not allow the upstart humans to threaten the order they had maintained for millennia. The Council would marshal every resource at its disposal, every ship and soldier and weapon, and crush the Terran rebellion once and for all. Across the galaxy, the Council's forces began to regroup and mobilize. Reserves were called up from the far reaches of Council space, and vast shipyards and factories kicked into overdrive, churning out new warships and weapons at a staggering pace. The Council's strategy was simple and brutal. They would overwhelm the Terrans with sheer numbers and firepower. Wave after wave of Council ships would be thrown against the human defenses, grinding them down until nothing remained but ashes and memories. As the Council's counterattack began, the galaxy once again erupted into all-out war. Terran and Council fleets clashed in titanic battles that lit up the void with the fire of 1,000 suns. Dreadnoughts and battleships exchanged broadsides at point-blank range, while swarms of fighters and bombers dueled in intricate ballets of death. On the ground, armies of power-armored soldiers and towering war machines fought tooth and nail for every inch of territory. Worlds burned as the two sides poured men and material into the meat grinder of war, each determined to emerge victorious no matter the cost. The fighting was brutal and unrelenting, with neither side giving quarter or showing mercy. The Terrans, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a tenacity and skill that belied their relative youth on the galactic stage. Their ships and soldiers performed feats of valor and sacrifice that would be remembered for generations, holding the line against the Council's onslaught with grim determination. But even the bravest warriors could not hold out forever against the sheer weight of the Council's numbers. Slowly, inexorably, the Terran defenses began to buckle under the relentless pressure. Colonies fell, fleets were scattered, and the once proud Terran Empire found itself fighting a desperate rearguard action, giving ground in a bid to buy time and preserve what strength remained. In the heart of the conflict, the Emperor herself led her forces from the front, her presence. In the heart of the conflict, the Emperor herself led her forces from the front, her presence a beacon of hope and defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. She fought with a skill and ferocity that inspired her troops to ever greater heights of courage, even as the weight of the Council's onslaught threatened to crush them. Yet for all their bravery and sacrifice, the Terrans knew that they could not hold out forever. Their fleets were battered and depleted, their worlds under siege. The Council's victory seemed all but inevitable, and a sense of despair began to grip the hearts of even the most stalwart human warriors. But even in their darkest hour, the Terrans refused to give in. They had come too far, fought too hard, to let the Council snuff out the flame of human freedom and independence. As long as a single Terran ship still flew, as long as a single human heart still beat, they would continue to fight, to resist, to defy the Council's tyranny with every fiber of their being. And so the war raged on, the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. The Council, confident in its imminent triumph, pressed its attack with renewed vigor, determined to crush the Terran resistance once and for all. The Terrans, their backs against the wall, and their hopes fading, prepared to make their final stand, to sell their lives dearly in defense of all they held dear. The galaxy held its breath, knowing that the outcome of this titanic struggle would shape the course of history for generations to come. Would the Council's might prevail, or would the Terran Empire's indomitable spirit prove too strong to be conquered? Only time and the courage of those who fought and died on the front lines of this epic conflict would tell. Humanity's triumph. As the Galactic Council's forces closed in for the kill, the Terran Empire stood on the brink of annihilation. Its fleets were in tatters, its worlds under siege, its people exhausted and bloodied by the relentless onslaught of the Council's might. But even in their darkest hour, the Terrans refused to yield. In the heart of the conflict, the Emperor and her advisors gathered to plan their final stand. They knew that they could not match the Council's numbers or firepower, but they had one advantage that the Council could never hope to match: the indomitable spirit and unbreakable will of humanity itself. And so, in a series of daring raids and surprise attacks, the Terrans unleashed their secret weapons, not just advanced technologies and devastating new ships, but the courage, ingenuity, and sheer tenacity of the human spirit. Terran Special Forces, equipped with the most advanced stealth technology and trained in the art of asymmetric warfare, struck deep behind enemy lines, sabotaging Council supply lines and sowing chaos and confusion in their ranks. Terran hackers and cyber warriors launched devastating attacks on the Council's computer networks, crippling their communications and targeting systems. And in the heart of the battle, the Terran fleet unveiled its most powerful weapon yet, a new class of dreadnought, bristling with advanced weaponry and shielded by impenetrable force fields. These mighty ships, commanded by the most skilled and daring of Terran admirals, tore through the Council's formations like a hot knife through butter, turning the tide of battle with their sheer firepower and tactical brilliance. Slowly, inexorably, the balance of power began to shift. The Council's once unstoppable advance faltered, then stalled, then fell back in disarray as the Terrans pressed their advantage. Worlds that had fallen to the Council were liberated, fleets that had been scattered regrouped and counterattacked, and the once invincible Council found itself on the defensive, fighting for its very survival. In the final, climactic battle of the war, the full might of the Terran Empire and the Galactic Council clashed in a star system whose name would echo through the ages. The Emperor herself led the charge, her flagship at the head of a vast armada of human ships, all united in their determination to see the Council's tyranny ended once and for all. The battle raged for days, the void lit up by the fire of 1,000,000 guns and the detonations of 1,000 warships. But in the end, it was the Terrans who emerged victorious, their courage and skill proving too much for even the Council's vast numbers to overcome. With the Council's forces in full retreat and its leadership in disarray, the Terrans pressed their advantage, driving deep into the heart of Council space. Faced with the prospect of total defeat, the Council had no choice but to sue for peace, agreeing to a humiliating surrender that stripped them of their power and influence and recognized the Terran Empire as a true equal on the galactic stage. In the aftermath of the war, a new order emerged in the galaxy, one in which the Terran Empire stood tall and proud as a beacon of hope and freedom for all the oppressed peoples of the universe. The Council, its power broken and its arrogance shattered, was forced to adapt to this new reality, learning to coexist with the humans as equals rather than as masters and subjects. And so, through the courage, determination, and unbreakable spirit of humanity, the Terran Empire had achieved the impossible, victory against the most powerful force in the galaxy, and a new dawn of hope and possibility for all the races of the universe. The galaxy would never be the same again, and the name of Terra would be forever synonymous with the triumph of the human spirit over impossible odds.